a lot of times the reason people are going to their doctors in surrender mode is because we don't feel empowered anymore. We've been trained out of being empowered. We've been told we don't know. We've been taking so much Tylenol. We really don't know. And it's like, it's not, the empowerment comes when like both people set up the space for partnership.
Hi, Rachel. Welcome to A Woman with Healing podcast. I'm so grateful that you are with us today and are here to show up for yourself and for the listeners of this podcast and share all your wealth of knowledge with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And can you start off with your story, where you came to be who you are today, maybe a little bit of your healing journey, also speak about what you do for others to help them on their healing journey as well?
Yeah, I'll try and make it the condensed version because, as you know, healing stories are epic.
Oh gosh.
And
yeah.
they're epic, right? And I mean, mine starts with like, I was a kid that was always sick. Like I had terrible digestive stuff. And it's, I think, perfect for your podcast because my mom is autoimmune. And so my sister and I have some markers that have not like fully manifested, but I've always felt like I'm autoimmune adjacent. Like I was that kid. It's like, why is your digestive system weird? Why do you have tendonitis when you're not that big of an athlete? What, like all these things that happened from the time I was really, really little. My digestive system never really working the way that was common for other people. I grew up in the United States in Maryland, and like I couldn't drink milk, but we had the big milk campaigns. Like there was a lot of things that just didn't work that seemed to not be a problem for other kids. And I also, looking back, can now see the anxiety that was there when I was younger, like probably in third and fourth grade, but it took me until I was in about high school to really fully manifest the mood stuff that came with having such a dysfunctional digestive tract. And so I had a lot of depression and anxiety, which then I went into college like with all of that. So by that time, it wasn't just digestive stuff. It was like menstrual stuff. It was mood stuff. I was an insomniac. Like it was this for a 20-year-old, I was kind of a zombie. And I had chronic fatigue syndrome. And it was around then. So my mother, because she's autoimmune, she had started doing a lot with nutrition in her journey. She had a really, I think, epic adventure also. And she had gotten into bringing a holistic perspective into her healing. And so she was already working with a nutritionist. And so she brought me to the nutritionist. And then a friend of mine sent me to therapy for the first time, which was amazing. Like one of my best friends was like, girl, you need some help with this. And so in college, I started to get some support. And I would say that like at that point is when I sort of began studying myself, but it was subtle. And come to my late 30s, or I'm sorry, late 20s, it was then that I started to have these like full blown panic attacks. So I'd done a lot of healing in my early 20s with food and therapy and some kind of sort of like daily tools for living, mindset work, general. It was kind of I would say like when you get into the pool and you're like, you walk in on the stairs and you're like, all right, I could stand up in here. Like, I know I shouldn't eat corn syrup now. That doesn't work for me. It's fine if it works for you. Like I got that. And I got the value of therapy, and I understood journaling, and I kind of had labels for what was going on. And so that gave me a platform to kind of live in my 20s better. When I was around like 28, 29, things started to kind of go off the rails again. I couldn't sleep again. My digestive system turned inside out again. And I loved the work I was doing, and I was having a hard time with the environment that I was working in. And so I started to wonder, maybe I need to be doing something else. And there was just this general sense inside of me of like, things aren't right. And I
Mhm.
started having panic attacks, like big ones, like, and I would just cry for hours and hours and hours and feel completely overwhelmed. My heart would race. Um, and at that point, that was it was like the next level of the pool. It was like where you just kind of sit in the pool and like I've learned to tread water, but it was deeper. I couldn't always stand up. It was like that level of it. And so it was, therapy again, nutrition again. And then I was, I was listening to a lot of NPR at the time, because if I listened to music on my way to work, my brain would just run away into all this chaos. And I found that listening to news stories grounded me on my trip. It was something to kind of focus on when I was otherwise really, really panicky. And I was hearing ads for this program at this school, like herbalism, and I was hearing ads for kind of a more holistic kind of leadership. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And it was in the background. And then a little while later, I was at a reunion at college with my singing group because I had been a singer. And one of my friends was in acupuncture school. And I was having a rough time. I mean, I was in it. And so I was with all these wonderful women from generations of my a cappella group, and we're all sharing about life at different stages. There was moms with kids. There had people like in and out of their marriages. There were young people in college. And so we were having all this sharing, as women do when they come together in circle, right?
Mhm.
And my friend Trish Twyford, she's amazing. She was like, I'm in an acupuncture clinic not too far from you. Why don't you come? And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard acupuncture is good for stress. Like totally no idea. And I get home from the reunion and I tell my, at the time, fiance, I'm like, oh, like one of my friends is in acupuncture school now. And he's like, oh, that's so good. We used to do that for the horses. It
Oh.
works. I had no idea. And he made an appointment. And I felt competitive that he made the appointment first and
Mm.
to go to the student clinic. So I made my appointment. So now I'm working on my food. I have a therapist. Now I have this acupuncture appointment, and I go. And for me, this is the first time in my life that I start to feel better at a really subtle, deep level. And it's not explainable. It's like this is what fascinates me about it. It's like, yeah, we're working on the food and the sleep and the fatigue, but something in me, like deep in my insides,
Mhm.
is calmer. Like my heart is calmer. There's a different sense of hope, because there's the kind of hope I would have when I'd meet an amazing healer and they'd help me in real time, and like something would get better in my symptom uh, picture. But this was like an inside thing. It wasn't an external thing. It wasn't about the corn syrup or how to
Mhm.
manage my thoughts or what to hear on the radio. It was like an inside experience I was having of changing. And it was subtle, however, palpable enough for me to notice it when I was working with her. And it was Trish who said, I think you should go to an open house because I think this work would be good for you. And I was healing and I was considering a career change, and I knew I wanted to work one-on-one with people, but I didn't think I didn't want to study psychology. I didn't think, because I didn't want to do research. I didn't want to go to social work circle because, again, I didn't want to have to get into research. Um, I love research. I just don't want to be the one doing it and reading it all the time. I just love that it's there and other people do it. And so I went to the open house, which is something I would have not done before. I had something in myself that had me feel secure enough to go by myself. Usually, if I had to go somewhere new where I didn't know, I wanted a friend, but I went by
Mhm.
myself, which was a big deal because for me, that was huge. And I went to the open house and I was like home. I was walked in the building and I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. It was down the road from where I'd grown up. And then I did everything to not go to the acupuncture program. I'm like, I'm going to study herbs. I'm going to study leadership. I'm going to look at this. And then ultimately I sat in on all these other classes and I was like, I'm home, but this isn't the field of study. I'm home, but I sat in on the acupuncture class, my observation class with my beloved teacher who has since departed from this life. And I had this like download. I was like, you are taught, like he was speaking to my inner like 3-year-old. It was like everything I'd ever wondered about the world, he was manifesting answers for. And then that was it. I enrolled within like, I mean, that was like one summer I was enrolled to go. And that was the end of that. And so, going to school was another opportunity for my healing. So it was something that I could do. And I'd always been interested in the healing arts. I just it never occurred to me that I could do that.
Mhm.
Like I would read about it. I would play with it with friends, like healing with hands and stones. And I loved all the things. I was always like collecting plants but it just never occurred to me. I think as like a kid who grew up in the US, like, oh, you could be a medicine woman. That wasn't like it didn't occur to me. And so everything came together at that point. And then in the process of going to acupuncture school, you meet all kinds of practitioners and you meet all kinds of friends who have done all kinds of healing with all the ways. I had done some energy healing when I was earlier in my 20s with friends that I met that were energy workers. And so it's like I started to broaden my network of understanding of what was out there. And for me, industrialized medicine had only come so far. Like I had never been able to heal everything with my doctors. And a lot of times I would go to my doctors previous to then and they'd kind of like tilt their head because they just had nothing they could do for me.
Mhm.
So some of them had a lot they could do for me and it would manage the profile of my symptoms and get me kind of functional, but it
Mhm.
never healed the underlying issue.
Mhm.
So once I got to acupuncture school and was studying more deeply, I started to understand because I had a framework of diagnosis that I resonated with. And then I was meeting all these other healers. There was a naturopath in my class who I went to see because she wanted to study acupuncture and add that to naturopathy. Like I met more massage therapists. I met Reiki folks. I met zero balancing people and the list goes on. And then I really got to study healing and do it myself. And now I get to do it with other people. So that's like kind of the long story long, as we say.
Yeah, and wow, there was so much in there. I was like, "Why didn't I have my pen and paper? Like, why didn't this fall down?" And okay, so
Yeah.
let me play this in my mind because okay, so what I heard a lot, but your mom had her own
Mhm.
healing journey.
Yes.
And you said that you have markers that you could had
Right.
fallen down that path
Yeah.
to autoimmunity. And but because your mom experienced it and she followed herself and tried different
Mhm.
modalities to help in her healing journey, that she passed it down to you so
Yeah.
that you didn't have to walk in her path, like the old
Yeah.
path that got her
Right.
sick in the first place.
Right. Right.
So she changed that
She
path for
did.
you.
And I don't even know if she would tell it that way. It's so amazing, but it's totally that
Okay.
way. Like I think and I love that. Like, I wonder, hopefully she'll hear this and she'll
Mhm.
like, cause I'll really just like, I'll write my bio and there's a lot in there. Like when your mother gets sick and you're 6 years old and you
Mm.
spend all your formative years watching someone who has, again, a lot of your listeners will get this. Like you look okay on the outside,
Yes.
but you're not.
Mhm.
And so people don't understand like why you don't have the same amount of energy other people have, right?
Mhm.
Or why you're in bed sometimes for much longer than the average bear, or why if both, if my mom said this really beautifully recently because of dealing with how do we get back into things with like this post COVID, like now we're living with COVID, right? In the world, we've
Yeah.
got to figure out how to live with it.
Yeah.
And she's because we were all buttoned up, she hasn't gotten sick because everyone's been in masks and
Yep.
using all this hand sanitizer. But she
Yeah.
said to some friends while they were trying to figure out how to play cards again, she's like, look, you know, if you get a cold, you're over it in 3 days. If I get that cold, I'll be sick for a month.
Mm.
So people won't see this, I think. But when you live with someone who has that, like I was a kid living with someone who would get sick that way. And, my mom has arthritis, so she couldn't always do everything with her hands and legs that other people could do the same way. Like she can't open all the jars. It's subtle. It's just under the radar, right?
Yeah.
And so my mom, I think, is really brave. I don't know if she would really realize how much of a anchor she had. Like she was the one that took me to the nutritionist. She had a holistic listening that I think she came into the world with, which makes her really unique. But I don't know if she knows she passed that on that way. I think most of the time my parents see the things they passed on to us genetically that they feel guilty for passing along, right? I have a child, and I know sometimes I have these moments where I have to like reckon with my guilt and shame that my little one is manifesting some of the same stuff that I've manifested, that my parents manifested before then. And I'm like, no, everything, I just wanted to not have that manifest in the next generation. And here it is. And I think my parents experienced the same kind of, guilt or shame or sadness or disappointment. I don't want to put words in their mouth of like what they did pass on that I've had to work really hard on my sister too. But I don't know if my mom realizes that she stewarded that for me. I don't know if she knows.
Oh, well, maybe that's an opportunity for you to express that to her, to get rid of that guilt. Because what I'm hearing, and I know that as parents, we're not alone in this, and I don't really see that anymore. I don't feel guilty that, because I feel like I resonate with your mom. So my daughter, she was having, and I resonate with you with the gut issues and stuff like that. I mean, that's where a lot of it stems from.
That's where a lot of it stems
But it's
from.
not the root cause, though.
Right.
It's what caused that digestive issue.
I
It
know.
is the
What's
root
under
cause.
that?
What's under that?
that?
It's like getting under there. So my oldest daughter was starting to have symptoms as well. And so I nipped it in the bud. No, you're not going to walk down my path.
Right. We're not doing this.
My old path. You're going to walk with me on my new path.
Yeah. We have tools now.
We have tools that we
Thank
didn't
goodness.
have before. And so it's not that feeling guilt, because that's something that we cannot control. The genetics is something that we cannot control. But what we can control is the way our genes are expressed.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of that is lifestyle.
Yes.
So like all these lifestyle diseases, all these chronic illnesses, autoimmune, diabetes, all
the
all
gamut.
those stuff is all lifestyle.
It is.
Yes, maybe family members have the same thing that you have, and it could be part of your genetics, but it doesn't mean that is your
We're not
truth.
condemned to it. We're not, it's absolutely about the expression. You're 100% right. It's interesting. I've had moments recently where I've thought everything I've ever experienced and learned, what if it was all in service so that my kid didn't have to suffer as much? What if everything that every generation before us comes to, right? Because in Chinese medicine or East Asian medicine, and a lot of wisdom traditions have this, the healing of the generations, the 7 generations. Like right now, you and I, we have 3 generations before, 3 to come, and then the 7 before us and the 7 next, right? We're in the middle of 7. And I think a lot about like, what if my daughter what if the buck stops there? What if some of this stuff that has been ailing the generations, my generation, and the generations before me, like, because we've done the work, we've done a lot of healing and a lot of learning and seeing ourselves as whole, maybe that's all been in service of this her generation that won't have to suffer for as long and as deeply. What if that's the whole thing?
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. Is it's almost reframing it as, why is it happening to me instead of why is it happening for me? What is the lesson I'm meant to learn and share with others?
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. So it's about Stop beating yourself up, stop feeling,
Mm-hmm.
like you said it with your mom, she feels guilty, and
Yeah.
that's not healthy.
No, it's
And that's out of
not.
her control of
It
what she
is.
passed down. But
It's
what was
totally out.
in her control was to change
Right.
things. And she did do that. And
Yeah.
she taught that to you and
Yeah.
your sister.
Yeah. She did. She was a pioneer. She was like gluten-free before gluten-free was a thing.
Yeah.
We were like, I was in high school when she was going gluten-free. It's like there was nothing on the shelves for that, you know?
Yeah, that's hard.
It's like the 90s, the late 90s. Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
did it
And she
anyways.
did it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something in her, I'd have to ask her. I'd actually be curious to know like how she heard that in herself. I know she had a friend who had a similar situation who was like, go see this nutritionist, but something in her heard that possibility. And you heard it in your daughter, right? It's
Hmm.
like you saw the symptoms and you're
Yep.
like, I hear the possibility of this being otherwise. Doesn't
Oh
have to
yeah.
look like me. And I think a lot of us though probably do have to work through sometimes this like guilt about it's like, and get rid of it and like transform that and not let that be the story.
Hmm.
Cause I have my moments where I'm like, it's dark out and I'm like full of tears. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't heal this before she got here. And now it's
Mm,
here.
yeah.
And it's like, but also she's on her journey. Like it's hers. It's not mine. I did everything I could do up in,
Yeah.
hindsight. I
Yeah.
have a line. I don't know. Hindsight's an a-hole. That's what I'll say about it. She knows everything. She can't help it. Of course she knows everything. Hindsight, of course, knows everything.
Oh yeah. Yep. And it's not beating yourself up because it's telling yourself, I did the best that I could with the tools
With
that were given to me.
at the time. Yeah.
Yes, at
And
that
then being
time.
allowed, right. And being allowed to then grow and be like, now I have other ones. And that doesn't
Yeah.
make my younger self bad,
Wrong. Yeah.
wrong at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
At all.
No, at all.
And it's loving every part of you, even the parts that
Yeah.
you thought were wrong, even the parts you feel that are shameful.
Yeah.
It's loving all of that
All of
because
us.
that puts you out of alignment with
It
yourself.
does.
And before we hit record, I was saying that that's what I feel is one of the deep rooted causes of dis-ease in the body is that we're not in alignment with ourselves
Right.
and our body is reacting
Mm-hmm.
to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's signals, it's messages to us, telling us that hey, there's something going on that we need to come back to ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
address
Mm-hmm.
and show up for ourselves with loving
Mm-hmm.
compassion.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. And sometimes I wonder if people like I'll talk with I wonder if people really fully can picture what we mean by alignment. I
Mm,
always like to give people metaphors for that. Like, so one that works for me is with music because I was a singer and a lot, I actually don't know yet. I haven't met a human that doesn't have at least some kind of music they love, like to listen to
okay.
so far, but I'm sure somebody out there doesn't care for it. But it's so natural, right? I mean, for centuries that and thousands of years, humans have been making music together. But
Mhm.
when you think about alignment, we have so many parts of self, and they're really all part of this great oneness, right? It's like my whole self. So there's of course like the brain, and we can study the waves. Like we could all hook up right now to a machine and look at what those waves are doing. And we could do the same thing with the heart. And ultimately, you can put anybody in an MRI or CT machine or PET, like you can see like things light up, things are shadowed, things are light. There's heat here, there's a color there, there's a wave here. So I think when I want people to be able to like visualize what you're saying, which is beautiful about like coming into alignment, which essentially means taking like the spirit of who I am, that I'm alive, just I'm alive, you're alive. So therefore we must have some spark of spirit, that I have this like flesh suit that's carrying that spark. And then because I have this whole nervous system and this brain and all these emotions and chemicals running through me, I also have like a mental emotional piece. And if we can get everybody's waves to line up, all three of our parts to line up and make the same music. So we're all in the same time signature, right? Everyone's making the same beats per minute or measure, or the waveforms actually are complementary. They're not dissonant, because if we think of it visually, I think sometimes that gives people a place to check in with themselves when they feel funky, to be like, hold on, which part of me, which part of this great whole has gotten staticky or has gotten off beat or dropped into another key, and we're not in the same. Now it's like we're literally making dissonant music because we have clashing sounds. Or if we were to draw waveforms, like if one waveform is going up when the other one's going down, and that doesn't feel good, how do we call ourselves back to this where everything is moving together, same rhythm? Because that's alignment. That's part of alignment. Part of it's being connected to like, who am I in my greatest self? What's my greatest possibility? What's my greatest possibility for my well-being, my health, my expression, my creativity, my love? And the other is like, who am I in myself? All three parts lined up, working together on a team, not in opposition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for stopping and explaining that, because sometimes, like, when we're on this journey, we already been through this, and then we think everybody knows it.
I know the words. Yeah. And it's like, what is, because I think a lot of people, we have those words where like we have some like semblance of understanding, like, oh, I must be not aligned. Well, yeah. But what does that mean for me or you or the person driving in the car right now, listening to this, or walking in the grocery store? What does that mean for me? What does out of alignment mean for Rachel? What does it mean for Thermanda? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Everyone's is different, right? I know when I'm out of alignment, I've like lost access to my feet. Like I don't really think about where they are. I'm very up, like all my energy will be moving up, and it can get frenetic. And I have friends and colleagues and patients who, when they're off, they feel low. They can't get up. Even that is a different way of talking about it. And we're all having a unique experience of what it's like to be out of ourselves.
Yeah.
In a lack of ease. Yeah.
Yeah. And I picture it, like I feel it in my chest when I'm out in alignment. When I feel scared or nervous, I feel it in my gut. But in my chest is when I feel out of alignment. And it just came to me, oh, my heart is not in alignment with that. Was it the heart brain variance, or I can't, heart math with
yeah.
And I see it as if everything's like, well, people can't see my hands, but my hands are just moving every which way. Like
both
there's
of us
a circle, and it's just like all over the place. And it's not right here in alignment.
Yeah, they're not they're not like lined up. I totally experience that also. I'll feel like my hands now are going on opposite directions. It's like when I'm in alignment, I have a sense of feeling really literally centered. Like everything has come into a central line between the left and right side of my body, and like through my kind of third eye between the eyebrows, like all the way through my skull, in my chest and my gut, like everything will feel really, really lined up.
Do you feel like a sense of calm or quiet when that happens?
I do. I feel calm on my insides, like still, like I'm not sort of vibrating too much. And I'll feel really clear about what is so. Like there will be no judgment. There will be no, I'll have a lot of enthusiasm, because that for me is like it's an expression that I am when I'm aligned. It's like enthusiastic and creative. But I'll feel like really, it'll be so clear. It's almost like I can see really far and wide, but I'm quiet on my insides. And I'll have this sense of that, even with all the things that are not quite okay, like that are legitimately in the earthly playing field, like need attention and are not appropriate, or like we're not being good humans to each other, like I'll have an awareness of that and kind of some clarity around how to be with it and what I can do to make a difference. but it won't feel like things are bad or good. They're just what's so.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a sense of like what could be so. And so I'll have some quiet on my like inside,
It almost
literally.
you're almost describing flow to me, like what
Yes.
I think flow is.
Yeah.
Everything's just flowing.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
blockages. There's no like, because when I was describing like when I'm out of an alignment, like everything's just all over the place, and
Mhm.
it's chaos. It's not flow. It's not flowing together and like in this river.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And with if you could just explain a little bit with the acupuncture, because I feel
Mhm.
like you could correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert with that, but I feel like your job is to release blockages, to continue
Yes.
with that flow of energy.
Yes. That's
Can you
exactly it. That's perfect. That was so good. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, it's, we have, and people may have heard the word chi. It's just energy. Word,
Okay.
it's QI in Chinese. It's KI or ki in Japanese, and in English sometimes you'll see CHI, chi.
Yeah, that's
Um,
how I see it.
yeah, it's just that we're enlivened with energy, and with acupuncture there are meridians or channels, and so it's where types of chi are flowing within us. So if we're all the earth, which we are, right? We're all a manifestation of nature. Then we have land, like we have the flesh, kind of the land, the muscles, and we have all the attachments, like the trees. We have everything that's attached, right, to the land is like a tree or a plant. And then we have a lot of fluid. And so we have waterways. And when we use acupuncture or we use acupressure or we're using herbs or some kind of body work, the whole thing, and the acupuncture is the needles part, the whole thing is to make sure those waterways are fluid. There's no, it's natural for beavers to put up a dam. That's okay. But is the water still moving where it's supposed to? So within us, if we have, say, an old injury, it could be like literally we got hurt playing football or wrestling, or like you know, I don't know, we were in dance class and got hurt when we were 8 and it never healed all the way. That could be one version. And it could be that moment when we were a kid and there was a traumatic moment and that blocks everything up. It could be anything. And so things get locked down. And when they get locked down, we have pain. And pain, essentially, how I see it, is anything that doesn't feel good, especially in an autoimmune situation where people's like, well, it may not hurt all the time, but I don't have the energy to do my life. Or like my joints are tender, but they're not like sharp. I'm achy, it's not sharp, or it's sharp, it's not achy, or um, brain fog. People don't necessarily think that's pain, but it is. Think about it. It's like I'm not working as well as I could. I can't think as clearly. My limbs
Yeah.
are heavy. Having to take the laundry upstairs right now feels way, way more massive than
Yeah.
it should. Going to the bathroom is difficult. My bladder's upset. My bowels are upset. My food's coming up on me. So this is all pain. It's all lack of ease. As you say, dis-ease, lack of ease. And the goal of acupuncture is to get your body to heal itself. So when we put those needles in, or we touch those points, or we do the body work, or we're taking the herbs, whatever it is we're doing within the realm of the medicine, it's to have the body right itself, to move that stagnation, whatever's
Mhm.
gotten in the way of that flow, out of the way. And the body's capable of doing that self a lot of times with the right messages. And it does reset the nervous system. So if we wanted Western language about it, you can see it. Like we can put a needle in and hook someone up to a machine and watch the conduction of the conversation from the nerves into the central system. And that's fine, but that's a very A to B industrialized way of thinking it. This is a much more, why is it that if I put a needle in someone's foot, their headache gets better? Have it on their feet. It's not about A to B.
Mhm.
So it's really about having that person's natural healing mechanisms come back online,
Yeah. Yeah,
which
I like that what you said. You basically you're assisting their body into
Mhm.
healing itself. Like you're
Correct.
not healing it,
No, correct.
they're healing it. And
That's
that's the
right.
message that I'm trying to bring to people is that you are
Yep.
your own healer. You just have to give your body what it needs to heal. Your
Yep.
body's capable of healing.
Yep.
Your body's not
100%.
lacking medication that suppresses
Right.
the communication, the symptoms, the pain. That's your communication to let you know, hey, there's something going on. Let's let's assist ourselves in healing.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's not, I can't do anything to you, you know? I mean, outside of surgery, and that's necessary. Thank God.
Oh yeah.
We have a much better lifespan span now because of some interventions and certain medications. It's great when we need them.
Yes.
And yeah, like I'm not, and I tell my patients this when they come in, like, it's not, I don't think they're broken and they don't need me to fix them.
Mm.
Well, we will do the detective work together.
Yes, that's it.
I will have the objective treatment plan to give to them, but I'm just a conduit. That's them. That's what they're capable of.
Yes.
And for all of us, that's mindset as much as it is having enough water and like getting enough rest. And
Yes.
we do have bodies. So since we have bodies, there are some universal truths of things like we all have to eat the right food for us,
Hmm.
you know, whatever that is,
Yep.
because we're mammals. So we can't actually not do that and be okay all the time. But the spirit and mindset piece, the emotional piece is one, like having the feelings, not squelching them, not disowning the feelings, not ignoring them. And then the piece about spirit is like, who do I want to be in this lifetime? And what do I believe is so? And it is my natural healing mechanisms. I can't heal someone. That's not my job.
Hmm.
As a healer, it's just a conduit.
Hmm.
That's all I am. And so it really is up to the patient. It's really up to the person. It's up to each of
Always.
us.
Yeah. And that's with everything. Even when you go to your conventional doctor, they're not going to heal you. They're just
No.
going to assist you.
Yeah.
Um, but you have to do the work. You have
Correct.
to know that you are the one with the power
That's right.
to do that.
That's right.
And you said detective work. Yes, you're coming to your doctor to help do that detective work
Yeah.
with you,
With
not
you,
for
not for
you.
you.
And a lot of times you don't find that in conventional medicine. They don't have the time. They're under constraints. They're not able
Yeah,
to do that detective work.
that's true.
So
They
there
are in a way
are
they
other
are.
modalities, other
Mhm.
doctors out there that help you do that, like functional
Right.
medicine, wellness way, and holistic and integrative, all that. There are
All the options.
other options. And like you said with conventional medicine, we still need it. There's a
Yes,
place for it. There's
there's a
like
place for
that
it.
acute, that acute, like
Absolutely.
the immediate attention,
Absolutely.
wonderful for that. But for the
Absolutely.
chronic,
No.
the stuff
Yeah.
that takes more longer, more loving attention, that's not their place. They're not
Right.
trained in that, and
No.
they have to be upfront and let people know that.
Yeah.
And so that people understand the expectations that
Mhm.
you're not going to get better when you are pretending and like putting a blindfold over your symptoms like
Yeah.
it's not really there, it's not really there.
It's not gonna, yeah,
It's
ignoring it
getting
won't work.
it's getting, yes, you can't ignore
It
it.
won't work. It
Yes, you're
doesn't
getting
work.
comfortable so that you can function, but in the
Right.
long run it's
Yes,
not
we
going to
still
work
have
as
to
well.
get under there. We still have to get under there. I mean, oh, you know what? Here's a good analogy for that. You know, if we were in the kitchen today and had like I accidentally cut my hand deeply while like slicing an apple. If I went to the doctor and it was deep enough, they would put in 2 levels of stitches.
Mhm.
2. They would sew up under the surface and then another set on top if it was deep enough. Because if you just sew up the top, it's going to split open. So each of us uniquely have to be willing to not declare that our one physician is capable of doing all of it
Mhm.
for us it's really unfair for me as the patient, and it's really unfair for the physician. We
Absolutely.
all need a team, a care
Yes.
team, and we have to be on the team. And we have to feel empowered to be on the team, which a lot of times the reason people are going to their doctors in surrender mode
Mm-hmm.
is because we don't feel empowered anymore.
Uh-huh.
We've been trained out of being empowered. We've been told we don't know. We've been
Mm-hmm.
taking so much Tylenol, we really don't know. And it's like, it's not, the empowerment comes when like both people set up the space for partnership. And a lot of physicians will do that if we're listening. Some of them won't, and that's okay. And that may or may not be the physician for you. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
But, I have to be in partnership. I have fired a lot of doctors
Me
for
too.
myself.
Oh yeah.
Many.
Yes.
And I still do. I mean, it's like it's a
Yeah.
common occurrence.
That's
And if they're not, it's not because they're bad. They're probably great for someone else. They're just
mm-hmm.
not right for me.
That's right.
It's not the right match for me. It's not
Yeah.
the right partnership for me to be able to have a team of consultants that works well together
Mm-hmm.
on what I need and has the right wisdom and knows where to point me and has a good referral network and, understands. Especially, and I'll say this too, because I think it's really important. A lot of folks, a lot of people who have an autoimmune condition are really sensitive creatures, highly responsive individuals.
I could relate.
Right?
Absolutely, 100%. Like personally, yes.
Yeah. Right. Like
Yes.
have always been these like responsive creatures.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Highly sensitive in nature. And
Mm-hmm.
if somebody doesn't get that, if your care team doesn't understand that, it's not going to go well.
Mm.
It most likely, I don't want to be 100% on things. I'm not like a really 100% person, but like most likely, if somebody's a really, really responsive, highly sensitive creature on the planet, and your doctor or your massage therapist or your acupuncturist or your therapist doesn't get that, doesn't have the tools to be able to go there with you, it's probably not going to go so well. Because the right care team from any modality who understands that will understand the nuances in an autoimmune situation. And they are nuanced because, the temperature goes up 2 degrees and gets a little more humid and everything goes off the rails. There's a stressful event that all humans believe is stressful. We all agree it's stressful, but for the person with the autoimmune condition, the stress response is bigger and badder and longer than everybody else's. And the care team needs to get that. The care team needs to be like hip to that. So, and we need to be hip to that ourselves and be okay with that. Yeah. Okay. So you're a responsive creature. Let's own that. Nothing wrong. There's nothing bad about that. That also makes us more empathetic, creative. The awesomeness that comes with that.
And we're so honed in on things. Like we could see beneath the surface.
Yeah.
We could get right to it.
So yeah, if and some people may not realize that about themselves. They may have like dampened that. And so they're like, no, seriously, it's just my psoriasis. And I'm like, no, it's not, but okay. But you may think that, you might believe that is true. And like, I bow to all of you who are like, I don't think I'm that sensitive a creature, but like, check in, like, what are you sensitive about that what is your superpower? And so, getting hip with that and then calling in a care team that's also hip with that is going to be huge.
That's so beautiful.
Right?
Like just you were the first person that touched on that actually. So I'm like just soaking that in right now and like just picturing that team. And you keep saying the word team and I love that because it's not just one person that's going to help you. You need a team of people that can see your blind spots from every angle. One person can see it from one angle, another one sees it from a different angle. And that's what it is we keep saying that you're the one that has to do it, but there are blind spots that we cannot see.
Yeah, that's why we have help.
That's why we have help.
Yeah. That's my way of
And
help.
having like I'm resonating with that, with having someone that is in tune with how sensitive and highly aware we are of things, and having
Mm-hmm.
someone understand that, because I do feel that in my team, like that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
lacking, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to hands-on stuff. Like
Yeah.
I want someone that could feel where in my body needs,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like my husband can do that for me. Like he'll touch on
Mm-hmm.
a spot like, wow, I didn't know I needed that. And he doesn't realize it though. He's
That's so
like
cool.
oblivious of that.
Yeah.
That sometimes a lot of times that he just goes right to the spot.
He may be consciously oblivious, but clearly subconsciously is not.
But he doesn't believe in stuff like that. So I just leave it as that,
To
and
each their own.
just keep doing what you're doing then. I'll just
That sounds
benefit
good.
from
Thanks.
it.
Yeah.
But
I love that. But it's true. It's true.
it is. And I love how you said your superpower, because I don't,
Mhm.
all my life, why are you so sensitive? Or why are you so
Oh
uptight?
yeah.
Why are you
Why are
so
your
uptight?
feelings hurt so easily? Why are you so
Yeah.
this? Why are you so yeah.
And it's, I've come to learn that about myself, why that is, why I'm
Yeah.
so heightened, and to see the beauty in it. Like now
Yes.
I feel excitement in my heart right now when I think about it, because that
Good.
is like I have this special
Yeah.
power that other people have too, but
Yeah.
I understand how beautiful it is and how I can
Yeah.
use it for good,
Yeah.
and not see it as
Right.
something bad.
Right. Well, why else? It's like when we think about it, it's like, why else? And especially with autoimmune stuff or anything that's acts like autoimmune, because there's a whole
Mhm.
category of illness that
Yeah.
acts autoimmune, even if it's
Hmm.
not technically in there. I bet in
Yeah.
like 15 years, we'll have a new category of diagnoses. But for now,
Mhm.
um, why else would the body not know who to attack and who not to if we weren't so sensitive that we couldn't tell anymore? It's like if we've gone through life being so like hyper responsive, so keyed in, at some point that's overwhelming when it's not affirmed. And we don't happen to generally have a lot of that affirmation in our society. It's not currently built in. It's
Mhm.
dampened down because we got to get in line and we kind of got to like, we all eat lunch at the same time and everyone takes a bio break at the same time at the meeting. And, you know, we're trained to need to fit in. And so when people are really, really responsive, sensitive creatures and they don't, we're like constantly in dissonance with what's being asked of us by the external world.
Mhm.
And maybe even in our home, maybe in ourselves, maybe and if we're sensitive and it's like the feelings hurt easily, we feel the big feels, there's nowhere for that to go. Maybe they don't resolve. At some point, it's just going to make for a lot of static for people. There's just going to be so much information to sort through that at some point the flesh suit can't do it anymore. It's too much. It's like, wait, I feel all the feels. No one's helping
Mhm.
me with it.
Mhm.
My the food, I don't the sleep, the this, the that. It's so painful. And so of course, we're going to start to actually have an immune system that just can't tell which way is up and down because
Mhm.
it's too murky. And so a lot of this is like, it really is an owning who we are. Yeah, I have big feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have big opinions. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that. Maybe I'm a math genius. Maybe I'm a great artist. Maybe I'm a whatever. And owning that because we have a specific view of the world that's just getting overrun. Just the
Oh yeah.
sensors are on just
Yeah.
fire alarm,
Mm.
mode. And so I think that we have an opportunity to be gentle with ourselves because a lot of people in this situation will feel like they're in opposition with themselves. They're in a fight with their body. Their
Yeah.
body is betraying them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do, a lot of clients come to me, why does my body hate me so much?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's just stop right there.
Let's
Let's reframe it.
yeah.
Let's say your body doesn't hate you. It loves you. It's giving you messages,
Hmm.
and it's asking you, can you please give me what I need?
Hmm.
And it doesn't know how else
Yeah. Has no other
to
language.
yeah, that's the only language it has.
Pain is the
And
language of the
it's
body.
not that it hates you, it's just it's reacting to what you're giving it. You're out of alignment with yourself.
We're
And
out
you
of
said,
alignment.
you said something about, being who you are. You're not
Mhm.
being who you are. The censorship that we have to put on ourselves,
Mhm.
every time we do that, it's breaking a piece of us away.
Mhm. Yeah.
And every time we have to, and I feel that my whole life, especially being really in tune with my environment, and showing up too big, and I had to dim my light. Yeah,
Too big. I mean, how many of us have that I'm too much story?
that
Oh,
is
it's awful,
my
right?
story. It is.
It's so painful. And it's like,
It is.
no, we need all the light.
Yes. And
Oh, it's so
so
painful.
the more that we're not ourselves,
Right.
the more our body reacts,
Mm-hmm.
and our soul reacts, and our mind reacts to
Yeah.
all of that.
All of it.
We're one. We're not
No,
separate with ourselves.
that's right.
And I have this practice now that I'm trying to be brave enough to get back to me, be who I am
Yeah.
unapologetically. Who the
Yeah.
heck cares?
Yeah.
Like, so I have this mantra that in a book that
Oh, your
I'm
mantra.
reading.
Tell me your mantra.
I got it from
Yes.
this book.
Yeah. I wrote some awesome mantras with that book. They're so good. It's so good.
Yes. And
I
my
love it.
favorite one is, it's none of my business what other people think of me.
That's right. It's
So
so good.
it's so good. So when I'm doing things that is who I am, and I start feeling the judgment from other people, or I start feeling like, oh my God, I'm not fitting in with society right now.
Yeah.
And I tell that to myself. And I'm like, that's right. That is right. Because how am I
Mhm.
going to give my power away to that person?
Right.
Because
What
they're not coming
and
home
what
with me. They're not me.
no. No, and what business do we have in their business?
Yes.
None.
No, not at all.
No. Oh, it's so good. It's such a good one. I love that book.
I
Oh
do
my
too.
God. I'm so with you though. I'm so with you on that. And Marianne Williamson has that great quote too about dimming your light. And it's like that we're all children of, well, she says God, but let's say whatever, we're all children of like the universe. And it's like, and ultimately she says, don't be ashamed to be your big self. Like, who are you not to be? Because
Mhm.
when you're your greatest self, you give permission to other people to be the
Yes.
same.
Yes.
She does it much more gracefully. I have that quote like in a lot of different places, but it's like, who are we not to be our best selves? And who are we not to be the light that gives everybody permission to be
Yes.
their greatest possibility?
Absolutely.
How did we decide that there wasn't room for that? you know
Mm.
and this undoing in that, a lot of us have healing to do there.
Oh,
I do
yes. Oh, yeah.
constantly.
Absolutely. And I feel that we all do. And I keep saying I feel, especially with women, but I feel men too. I
Sure.
mean, they're taught, don't cry, be a man.
Hmm.
You
Man
can't
up.
feel, yeah,
Yep.
and you can't be human.
Right.
And I feel the same with women. Like, you you can't be your sexual being because it's
Right.
unsafe.
Right. Right. Totally. Totally. Totally.
And you got to look beautiful but not too beautiful. You have to have
Yep.
a good body but not too good. You got to
Too
be smart
good.
but you can't
Don't
be
show it to
too.
everybody. Don't unshow it to everybody. Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
a whole thing.
Yes. And you know what? It's like knocking it down. Like, no, that's not for me. I am
Right.
who I am, unapologetically.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. I'm not there. I have 40 years of undoing.
Me too.
So, and
Yep.
it's a process, and I'll keep doing it till the day I die.
I think it is a practice and a process. And I think that, it's funny, the alignment today is wild because I had an interview this morning for my podcast and we were talking about this. Literally, of course we were. It's like, you know, it, it's not, there's no finish line on healing.
Mm-mm.
Like if we think there is, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of upset because
Mm,
it's practice, it's routine and practice and getting to know myself and then getting to know myself every time I change and grow. You know, who I
yes.
was 10 years ago, what worked for me mentally, spiritually, physically in the last decade is not the same as it is now at 41. It's totally
Mm,
different.
mhm,
And there's no finish line in this. And I think, and I don't mean that because I don't want people to be like, oh my gosh, I'm carrying this like load of, like huge bricks on my back forever. That's not what I
mm,
mean. I just mean that the finish, even the concept of the finish line is such a misnomer. And it's really unfair to
mhm,
ourselves to think we're going to arrive somewhere that we aren't already. No, today
mm,
I choose to be with people that make me feel good about myself. Today I choose to be kind to myself. Today I'm going to get out of other people's business. Today I will eat the good things. And tomorrow maybe I won't and I'll love myself anyway. And then the next day and then the next day. And it's like one moment at a time. It doesn't have to be about getting to the finish line.
mhm.
There isn't one.
No, it's always that ebb and flow
Yeah.
because because here on earth, there's always something that's going to throw you out of alignment. So it's
Yeah.
always trying to get you back.
Yeah.
And you might get back there faster with the tools that you achieved.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, I'm going to be healed and that's it.
Right.
And it's not because, like I just mentioned, something's always going to pull you out of alignment, and it's always a practice working that
Yeah.
muscle. And besides, you might think you feel great now. Imagine how much better you're gonna feel,
I
like,
know.
5 years from now if you're still
It
doing
could be amazing. Right. Doing all
yeah,
the, yeah, totally.
because we think, like, what we feel right now is normal.
Right.
We
Well, we
don't
do
know
get
what
used to
feel
it.
good. Yes, we
That's the
don't know
thing.
what
People
feels
get
good.
used to, they get used to such a, like it becomes such a common level of disharmony that we don't actually
Mhm,
know what's possible anymore when we
mhm,
don't feel well. So people
mhm.
do get used to it.
Yes, yes,
They
and
get used,
we don't know what it feels like.
we don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's
So,
true.
thank you so much for this conversation.
You're
Before we
welcome.
go,
Yeah.
is there something that you can any tool or any words of wisdom that you can give to the listeners right now?
Yeah. Okay. It's funny you said that because I was thinking about this a few minutes ago. So, this was given to me by my teachers. I cannot take this, is not mine. I learned this from my teachers. Where do you feel it in your body? That's whenever life shows up, I think the key way to come back to one of the key ways to come back into that alignment, to get back in here and sort through it is where do I feel it in my body? Because everything we do, be, have, say, hear, it's coming in. This is a instrument, right? This body, this flesh suit, it's the manner in which we get to take our enlivenment and move it around. So it's an instrument and everything's coming in at us. And so, not at us, I don't mean that even like as a fight. I mean, like things are coming in, right? Like the apple comes in, the news station comes in, the thing my mom said came in, the thing my husband said came in. It's just coming in, whatever we're learning, whatever we're experiencing. And so, one really key way to get back into that empowerment, to like locate it and own it again, is by checking in. Where did I feel that in my body? So, if I eat an apple, can I turn it into Rachel? What does that feel like in my body? And also, if somebody says something to me and I have some feelings about it, where are they? Are they my chest? Are they my shoulder? Are they my knee? Are they my back? Like, where did I experience it? Because that's how we get out of opposition with ourselves, when we start to understand that because I'm a mind, body, spirit, nothing is happening in only one place. That isn't happening everywhere. And part of repairing the nervous system and repairing all the membranes in the body and allowing ourselves to get back into that rest and digest state is about getting aligned, being in our oneness, being fully connected. So, where do I feel that in my body? If my minister says something amazing, what does that feel like in my body? What good is, if I'm with my partner, what does that feel like in my body? If I ate something amazing, what does that feel like? If my child is sad, what does that feel like in my body? So take the good, bad out of it. What is it like? No response doesn't have a physiological manifestation. Nothing. There's nothing that happens in our playing field that doesn't have something happening over here too, in our cellular being. And so that's how we sync up.
I like
One of
that.
the
Like
ways.
I always try to visualize where the pain is, what it looks like, what it really
Yeah.
feels like. Because
Yeah.
we know the feeling of resistance that comes with the pain, but do we really know what it feels like? So
Yeah.
for instance, I'll take a 3-minute cold shower every day, and I could feel myself resisting the cold, and then I'm thinking, well, what does it really feel like though?
Yeah.
What's the sensations in my body?
Yeah.
And but I never really, so I'm thinking about, okay, what does the pain look like? What does this look like?
Yeah.
I haven't yet asked myself when I feel good or some good messaging came in,
Yeah.
how does that feel in my body?
Yeah.
I've always looking at the negative,
Most
but
of us are. We've been trained
yeah,
to. So
okay.
if we look at ourselves, we can get some holisticness that way. And the other thing I'll say, and I think this is really, really, especially for your listeners, for anything autoimmune, body work, body work, body work, body work, body work. There's so much mindset that's important. Like find the way to the mindset work for sure. And find the care team that works and make sure in that care team, somebody is touching you. Somebody's got their hands on or above you, whether that's an acupuncturist with needles or a great physical therapist or the best massage therapist, or you see a Pilates instructor that's helping you be in your body, or it could be chiropractic, it could be energy work, it could be Reiki, it could be cranial sacral, but that is also so important that we repair that relationship we have with our body, and we can heal from spirit to emotions to physical. We can heal from spirit to physical. We can heal from emotional to spiritual to physical, and also physical. It matters that we get to feel good in this body, in this lifetime, or better than we did yesterday
Yeah.
or 5 minutes ago. And having another person kind of put their hands on you and deliver whatever it is they get to conduit to help us get our nervous system back into a calm space, to have that experience, that communion with another person who can access that healing and help you access it yourself. I think that's also really, really important. So it's like, I'm going to do my mantra work, right? And I'm also going to like take the probiotics and there's so many
Yeah.
supplements. We're doing the things. You get somebody to touch you, like it's so healing to be with another person who has a clean healing mechanism to offer to your body that's carrying you along on this journey, and like get to feel comfortable in there with whatever it is that is the right modality.
Yeah.
Any of them, the one that feels resonant, and to get to be relaxed, to get to be held, to have somebody touch your feet gently,
I like when you said to
it
be held, like, because
to
I
be held.
visualize that all the time. Like, I just want to be cared for.
Yeah. And
And
that's really important.
yes, and these
Really important.
emotions and feelings and memories are stored in that body.
They live in here. They're stored in here.
Yeah.
They're in the substance, they're in the tissue, they're in the fluid, they're in the
Mhm.
muscle, they're in the bones, they're in the joints, they're in the attachments. So to be held, to be able to allow that to release, to be able to have that be gentler, to be able to be witnessed with somebody's hands
Mm.
and their whole self, that's priceless. And it may be a little inconvenient or expensive. So I'd encourage everybody to like do what works for them,
Yeah.
and their wallet and their time and however
Mhm.
that works with their life. But like find someone who
Yes, and it's
has, mhm,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
not at all.
you said that it might get expensive, and what I would like to offer in response to that is we're always investing in ourselves.
That's right.
Where do we want to invest? like we could invest in a bag of chips
That's
for
right.
ourselves. Like what result are we looking for?
Right.
So is that bag of chips going to make us feel better? Maybe like
Mm-hmm.
in that moment that you're eating
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and then afterwards you're not.
Yeah.
Or like understanding that you're worth the investment in yourself to feel
That's right.
good.
That's right.
Because when you feel good, you show up as your best self, and everybody gets to have the best parts of
Everybody
you
gets it. Yeah.
instead of the crappy parts of you.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. And it's like, it's an investment now in this moment that has our aging process be better, that has us,
Hmm.
that can undo the past, actually. So we're investing in it. It's a really important investment to make in healing what was and what could be,
Hmm.
to find the time and the resources, whatever that means for each
Hmm.
person.
Yeah, and
But yeah.
like you said earlier, it's with their doctors, you fired many of them.
Oh
It's
yeah.
learning because you might like, oh man, is this worth the investment? Is it gonna? Am I gonna get what I want out of it? And you won't know until you try it.
You don't know
And
until you
then you
try.
know that if it does
Yeah.
work, yay! If it doesn't,
Yay.
okay, on to the next.
On to the next. Date the provider. Try massage. If you don't like massage, try Reiki. If you don't like Reiki, it's like, try things until you get the one that's right, and then allow that to be right for now. And maybe it will change in 5 years. Maybe
Hmm.
it's something that you love for 5 years or 10 years or always, or
Hmm.
just 3 times. But um, I think that one, we suffer from being untouched in general in our
Mm.
society. Even if we have kids hugging us and partners, like we can be a little bit accidentally cold. It's not like we hug everyone at work, and especially after the
Hmm.
pandemic.
Yeah.
And people who are in an ailment that's autoimmune related, like they need hands on them, hands on them.
Mm.
That's
You're
really
so
important.
right because at least for me, I love hugs.
Yeah,
And like even in the pandemic, I'm like, I don't care, give me my hug.
I love it. Yeah, give
I
me my
need
hug.
it. I need
Yeah,
and
it's
I felt
medicine.
and it felt so bad when I had to ask, "Hey, is it okay if I give you a hug?"
I know.
It felt really bad inside when I asked that, but I have to um respect other people's
Yeah, but it
their
was
comfort
your
level.
essential nature is to have that like, it's so easy for you, right? To teddy bear
Yeah.
up. That's like who you are, tender heart,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, oh, let's teddy bear up. Oh, wait, we can't teddy bear up. Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then I
Yeah.
don't know who to be.
You're right. I don't
Mm.
know who to be. That's perfect. That is perfect. And I just mm, yeah, I mean, I didn't care. Give me all the hugs. I don't care. I know I'm strong enough, so give me those hugs because that makes
Yeah.
me stronger.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're social beings,
Yes, we are.
and we need to be, like you said, touched.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to survive, really.
Yeah. We can't. And healing touch is so important.
Yeah,
It's important for everyone. I think it's especially important when we're living with anything autoimmune
yeah,
to
and that
bring,
can be hard for a lot of
yeah,
people with autoimmune because sometimes
absolutely.
they just feel so much pain.
Yeah. And so that's why it's about which modality. If it's
Mhm.
fibromyalgia, it may not be massage. It
Mm,
might be Reiki
yeah.
because it's
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it might be, I mean, even there's chiropractors that have special training in energy work. There's energy workers, there's hands on, there's hands above, there's hands near. There's
Mhm.
all kinds of, actually, I have fibromyalgia patients do great with acupuncture because it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
in one little place. It's not a full moving of the tissues, right?
Okay.
But I mean, just like that, it could be anything. If it's arthritis, then your physical therapist needs to really get that, right? If it's psoriasis, that massage may not feel good right then in an
Mm,
outbreak, right? So
yeah.
there's all kinds of different
Yeah.
manifestations, but it's like you find the one that works for you.
Mhm.
Reflexology is another one it's hands and feet. That could be very
Yeah.
perfect for somebody. So,
Yeah, my sister, she has fibromyalgia and she had, I don't know, I don't think it was acupuncture. They were trying to figure out what was wrong with her and she was having these
mhm.
spasms. And I know like
Mm,
when she had like a knot, they had to break that knot up before they couldn't just like give up. They had to break it up. Otherwise she
oh,
would be in more pain.
yeah,
But they did like I don't know what they did with her,
maybe dry
but they put
needling.
maybe dry needling because they put it in. and she had a spasm.
Yeah.
And
Dry needling.
that
Yeah.
needle was like a zigzag, like a
Yes.
lightning bolt.
Yeah.
They didn't know. They're like, I have never seen this before.
Yeah, because the muscle got so, yeah. So that's, dry needling, which is acupuncture needles usually performed by a physical therapist, an acupuncturist, or a chiropractor. But it's, it's to get into that trigger point on the muscle and have it release at a deep level. So it resets, and it's an intense experience. That is, if people are depleted, then a needle here or there, a dry needle here or there with a really well-trained professional can be really helpful. Bunch of needles it'll feel good for a little bit, but it's exhausting later. But yeah, for that like situation where you just have to get that muscle out of its sort of frozen mode, it's a reset. I'm not surprised to hear that it bent the needle.
Well, they were, the person that did it to her was.
I've seen that. And I've seen the needles bend. It's wild when that happens.
They're like, okay, how am I going to get this out of you now?
Yeah. Leave it out. I've had to like de-thread.
Really?
Oh yeah. I've had people's bodies like just kind of turn needles into different shapes. It's amazing.
Wow. So what do you think of that? Like what?
I think it's the engagement of the energy. With that situation with your sister, that muscle must have really spasmed so hard and then released that it actually, it's metal. So I'm not surprised to hear that. If it's acupuncture, it's about the way the energy is moving and gripping. But yeah, it's the body healing itself.
Okay. So we saw it as a negative thing. Is that a good thing?
If she felt better.
I don't think she did.
It can be a little harsh of a treatment for some people. It's a really intense treatment, dry needling. It's really great for athletes, and it's good for certain injuries. And sometimes if people are depleted, it's pretty harsh. And the practitioner,
she's definitely depleted.
Fibro, that would be the picture. But no, I don't think it's bad that the needle got zigzaggy. I wouldn't personally be like concerned by that. I'd be like, oh yeah, there's something in that shoulder. That shoulder must have a lot of information in there that hasn't been expressed fully.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anytime.
How can we support you?
Oh, support. Oh God, I don't even know how to answer that. What a beautiful question. Well, support. Well, I'd love to see people on Instagram, so you could DM me. That would feel amazing. I'm at really Rachel B. I'll make sure if Amanda has the link. I think I don't know. I may have already given it to you. I'd love to hear from people of what was helpful. And I've got also my podcast Unscripted, so people can find more of me there if they want. That would feel very supportive. But what a beautiful question. I'm like turning pink. I don't know how to answer it. Oh, you're so good. You made me blush. Yeah, that would feel great to see people there.
Awesome. I'll have that all in the show notes for everyone to just easily go there and click on the link. It'll take you right to Rachel.
Oh yeah. Thank you for that. I'm very excited to get to connect with your listeners. This is I'm so glad you're doing this. It's so important that people have a place to come and be seen and witnessed and know they're not alone.
Oh yes. That's exactly why you touched on it. That's exactly why I'm doing this, because this is what I needed.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it.
Yeah. What a gift that you're sharing with everyone to get it and then give it away. I love that.
Thank you so much. And I enjoy listening to your podcast as well, and all the information that you're sharing with others. I mean, we're both doing such good things in the world.
It is. It matters. I appreciate that, because people need to be able to feel like they have community in what they're dealing with and have resourcing.
And that's something that we are lacking. Big time. And it shows up in our health.
It does.
Big time.
It does.
So thank you so much. And I appreciate you coming on. I love your loving soul, and the calmness in your voice is so soothing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So welcome.